What's up guys? If you're watching this video, it's because you bought a 2019 to 2020 Honda CRF-110 LED headlight kit, and this video will tell you how to get everything installed. Thanks a lot for watching, and I really appreciate the support. Alright, so to get started, I'll walk you through everything that comes in the kit. First we got the wiring harness, then we got the headlight itself. Now for the wiring harness, we got a couple different things. We've got an on-off switch, standard operation just like anything else you might have used. We have a waterproof weather pack connector that feeds power to the headlight, and then this assembly runs down the frame rail to the battery. This is a power feed with an inline waterproof fuse housing, and then we've got a little ground cable here. Moving over to the headlight is going to be shipped to you like this in the packaging with these brackets already on here. We're going to take those off when we install it, but this is just to make sure everything is all together. We have a left side bracket, or a clutch lever side if you had one, and a brake lever side bracket. And the reason for this is that this actually offsets the light to move it over so that you can still run your number plate without having to cut it or chop it in any way. And then of course we have the male side to the weather pack connector, which will plug right into your harness. So before you get started with the installation, make sure you have this stuff ready to go. You got an 8mm socket to pull your plastics off with the seat and the front bolts on the fuel tank. You've got a flathead to get the plastic clip off on the fuel tank as well, the side of the tank, that shroud there. Phillips head number 2 can be long or stubby, doesn't matter, for various uses. Number 8mm to get your battery terminals off, and number 10mm to get the ground cable off on your frame, and to loosen the 7/8 handlebar clamps on the light itself. Then we've got a 5mm Allen head and a 4mm Allen head, also used for the LED light mounts. So now you're ready to install it, you got all your tools ready, and we can get started. To get everything going, I've got a little bit of a head start, but I'll walk you through it. You need to pull your seat off and your left side plastic or fairing. So it's an 8mm, pull both of those rear bolts out and get the seat completely up and out of the way. You've probably done this before, so just bear with me. Then you've got another 8mm down here below the number plate. You've got one up here on the fuel tank, and then you're gonna have a plastic clip right here, which I like to get with a flathead. I'll come in from the front, wedge it up like that, push it all the way out, and you can pull the entire plastics off without damaging or breaking any of the clips. Once you get all that stuff off, go ahead and grab an 8mm open end wrench like this so that we can loosen the terminals on your battery. We're just gonna loosen them a little bit, and then we can go ahead and feed our harness in. So whether your bike is dirty or clean, it's gonna look something like this. Now this is just a big group of wiring that's all factory. I haven't messed with any of this. You're gonna pull this out gently out of the way to expose the battery. So you've got a negative terminal here and a positive terminal here. Now we don't need to mess with the negative side because we're gonna actually use this ground to ground the headlight, but we do need to loosen this side and pull it off just for good practice. Now it's really weird. It's not a 7mm, it's definitely an 8, but it's hard to get to, and the Phillips head makes it want to strip, so I like to use the open end wrench like this. It's not gonna be crazy tight, so don't worry about that. Set this bolt somewhere where you're not gonna lose it. And then go ahead and loosen the power side. Now the power side, you don't need to take it off all the way. Just go ahead, mine's already actually loose. Just go ahead and get it loose enough that we can slide our forked spade terminal underneath it. You also need to go ahead and loosen this terminal, which mine again is already loose. This is a 10mm. Open end wrench does the job. Just back it off a little bit so that you can slide our new terminal underneath the top here. So we're gonna start with the harness first, and it's all one piece, which makes it a lot easier for you to kind of maneuver it, but it makes it a little more difficult to get it through the handlebars and stuff. I promise it's not bad. So to start out, we're gonna go ahead and loosen the Phillips head screws on the back side of this. Now, the way this thing sits, I like to put it right here. If it'll reach somewhere else, you can put it there, of course, but this is where I like to have it. It keeps it low and out of the way, but I can still get to it easily. So because of this, I wanna be able to get it to wrap around here. I'm gonna take out this Phillips head all the way. This side, you're just gonna loosen it. You don't wanna take it all the way out because we just wanna be able to kind of bend the bracket or angle it a little bit. So you can see right there, it's almost open enough to like fit around the handlebars, and that's what we want. So don't take it all the way out, just get it close. Now you're ready to feed the harness in through the frame. All right, as far as routing, we're gonna go between the triple clamp and the low fuel level light. Now this thing has to go in from the top because all this stuff is too bulky to pass up through the frame. So I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna use this fuse side first, drop it down through, pull it through with my other hand, get it all lined up, and then we can worry about running it through the frame. As you begin to feed the harness down, just try not to catch it on everything. It's pretty strong, but you know, it can scratch your plastics and whatnot. So you're gonna take the fuse side first, the ground's a little bit shorter, and you're gonna feed them down between the triple clamp and the low fuel level light. The fuse will come right through, the ground wire will follow. We're just gonna get this thing kind of down in position. So we just feed it through, there's really not any resistance. Once you start getting closer to the headlight connector here, you just wanna make sure it's kind of wide. So don't get it caught on anything that'll kind of damage it. You can see it's down, it's hanging out right there, there's no issues. And now we got our on-off switch. So the on-off switch is actually gonna stay right where it is. You wanna get down underneath it, and this is why we left this loose here. Pop this around, and then you just kind of figure out your position. So I'm gonna throw a Phillips head screw back in here, and then we can rotate it and tighten the other side. Looking up inside here, you can see we've got our on-off switch mounted right there. Super easy to get to, on, off, no problem. And then here, we got the harness coming down, so this side goes to the back of that switch. This side crosses over so that the headlight feed or input wire can come down on the right side over here. So first we're gonna run the rest of the wires through the frame, and we wanna start by going through right here. Now there is a little tiny pocket, and you can get in there with no issues. You just gotta kind of finesse it. There's plenty of space to get the fuse through. We're gonna go through here first. Come along here, there's another little wire guide here I like to use. We're gonna go through that, and then we're gonna come up here and make our final connections. Like I said before, when you feed it through, just try not to tug on it too hard. It's pretty strong. We're gonna come through here, just gonna kinda get my fingers up in here until I feel this wire come through. And obviously you can route this however you want, but to make sure it will fit, this is how it's gotta go. And I'm really happy with how clean this routing came out. So what I like to do is just do sections at a time. So go ahead and get it through there and kind of see how it's gonna look when it's done. Now we got this slack, and we need to go up through that tight spot I showed you. Same idea, get your hand behind it, kind of feel for it, and then just feed it. If you feel it getting stuck on something, don't pull crazy hard. You can definitely wiggle it through. You just gotta kind of make sure you take enough resistance off of it so you don't damage it in the process. To finalize the wiring, you got your ground here. You can see where this splits off, and that's so this can route a different direction. This is gonna go here, and this is gonna go to your battery positive. Now, we've still got this kind of pulled out of the way, and you can kind of just pick the best way to run it. I like to kind of tuck everything out, so I will run the power wire back behind all these grounds. These are all grounds. All those green wires there are ground wires. That wire can stay there. This wire kind of runs up through here, and we'll tuck safely back there in behind all this other wiring. So I'll take this fork terminal, and I'll slide it right underneath this battery positive. And I'll go ahead and snug that one up. And what's nice about this inline fuse is it will tuck out of the way so you can't even see that it's there. And then for the ground cable, just go ahead and take it, slide it in there. And make sure, you know, if you need to run it underneath, kind of look at it and just see what looks the most unobtrusive to the rest of your wiring. Tighten that one down. Once you got your power tight and your ground tight, this negative terminal connection, go ahead and tighten it back up on the battery. And there you go, you've successfully installed the wiring harness side of the light kit. Now take this little wire area here, this is all factory like I said before, and just shove that kind of back in how it goes. Be gentle with it, it should go right back into position. It kind of just chills there as you can see. And we can go up to the top and install the headlight. Now we're ready to install the headlight itself. Now I've already got my mounts on here, the 7/8 handlebar mounts. But what you want to do, these are 10mm bolt heads, and you want to use an open end because you can't really get in here with a socket after it's all said and done. You want to go ahead and put these on in like a rough idea of what you see here. Like try to match my position on the bars. My light was like super level. The cool thing is you can adjust this once it's all in place, but this was like a pretty solid starting point. So kind of position those how they are here. Get your 10mm bolts snug, but not completely tight, so I can actually move these if I want. Be careful not to scratch your handlebars, but you do have some adjustments, so leave them a little bit loose. With those two things in place, you are now ready to bring the light into place. We've got the light here with the two brackets undone, and we've got our two stainless steel bolts that we are gonna use to get it into position. But first, we wanna go ahead and plug the power lead in. So you can see I've got this other terminal kind of chilling right here on the frame. This is actually gonna go over into the other side, but for ease of allowing you to see it, I've got it here for right now. So I'm gonna push this through to the other side, and I'm gonna go to the other side and drop this wire down, and I'll show you where it goes. So this connection can be a little challenging to do with the number plate on, but I do like the fact that you can do it with the plate on. If you take it off, it's a lot easier. It's really up to you guys. But right here in front of the throttle cables, but not in front of the number plate. So between the number plate and the cables on this side of that number plate mounting bolt here. So this little area, that's where we want to pass the bottom of this light through. So I'm going to set the camera down on the tripod, but you want to feed it through like this. You can tell it's already going the wrong way. Feed it down through there. And then we're going to take the light and put it behind the brake light, or the brake cable, I'm sorry. The front brake cable, this does fit with a factory front brake cable, but it does rest on the light a little bit. So An aftermarket cable would work, but this is a factory cable, stock with stock bars. I made it work with these bars like most people do, and it does reach. Okay, now your throttle cables, I don't know if you've made an adjustment if you're running tall bars, but you do need to run the throttle cables as tucked in there as you can, so they're running in the factory location. Basically, if you got these bars on a working throttle, you're probably fine. So if you look through, you can see this is the headlight connector here. I wish it was that simple, but to keep it clean, we've got to run it on the inside of the plate. So I've got it pulled over. Make sure you're not getting caught on anything under there. There's a lot of factory wiring that can kind of get in the way. You're gonna take this one, and it's gonna wanna sit kind of like right there, but on the inside of that, so that it's on the receiving end of the LED. You're gonna then take the LED, drop it down through. The brake cable is nice. It'll kind of hold the light in place so it doesn't fall off and break. And then now you just gotta connect the two. When you go to plug them in, it is important to note that they are polarity specific. So like the red wire and the black wire need to line up with the red wire and the black wire on this side of the connector, and they will. It can only plug in one way. There is a right and wrong side with this little shark fin tab you can see right here. So you cannot connect it wrong, but do not try. If it doesn't feel like it's going in, it's probably not going to. Get it lined up, pop the connector in, and just slide this back out of the way, making sure not to catch it on any of the metal like cable guides that are underneath there. You can pull up on your light, take out some of that slack, which will also kind of pull everything into place. And now we can go ahead and power the light up and just make sure everything works. So the light's plugged in. We've got our connectors, our terminals tight down here, everything's connected. And this setup will work with the key on or off since it's connected to the battery all the time. Go ahead and hit it. Light turns on, it's insanely bright. And yeah, it's obviously not aimed, but we're in business, so we can mount it up now. Once you're ready to mount it up, just go ahead and kind of eyeball the light itself and see if your brackets are close. Like I said, I know mine are right already, so this might take you a little bit of time. That's okay. Just take your time here and get the light exactly how you want it. For me, it's a huge pet peeve of mine that it's completely even with the bar pad, especially because you have a line here that makes it more obvious. With other bar pads, it may not be as noticeable, but it drives me insane if they don't sit level. So when I hold it in this position, you can get a look at it and see that that bolt hole is pretty good, lined up right there. And then on this side, same scenario, we're nice and lined up over here. And this is the reason for the aluminum piece here, to avoid the number plate so that you don't damage it and you can still run it. And if you cut it off, that's fine too, but here we are. So I'm gonna take my bolts and I'm gonna run them in loosely. Pick a side, either side you want. It's not really a big deal. Just get them started. We're gonna get that one almost snug, but not entirely. Gonna grab the other bolt and do the exact same thing. And now is the time where we position the light and get it as straight as we want. And then we also need to loosen these with the 4mm Allen so we can position the light up and down. So with the 4mm wrench, we can tighten these side ones here. I'm just gonna roughly guess where I want it to aim at the moment. Don't crank on these, just get them nice and snug. You might wanna hold the light as you do it so it doesn't spin. So after you get everything tight, you can go ahead and throw your plastics back on and go for a test drive. Check it out, aim it, whatever. I like to normally bring this wrench with me and just kind of get it aimed up and down where I want it, and then I'll go ahead and tighten them down. But you can see it's nice and straight with the line. Like I said, biggest pet peeve. It is supposed to be offset, so if that bothers you, I'm sorry. Yeah, you can power it on. It does not use a lot of power, so I mean, I've turned them on for quite a while just to kind of see what's out there. And the bike has been off the whole time, and I haven't had any problems killing the battery. I don't recommend leaving it on for a long amount of time, but if you need to test it or eye it up and it's late at night and you don't want to run the bike to get your light working, I don't think you will have any problems just doing it this way. All right guys, that's it with the headlight installation video. I hope that everything helps. I hope you can see everything. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, go outside, turn the light on, and welcome to a whole new world of riding. Thank you.